reading the book of John, one of my most interesting stories. John, the 4th chapter. You know it well, but I'm going to just read a part of it there that I want to draw your attention to. John 4. I'm in verse 6. The Bible says, now Jacob's well was there. Jesus, therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus said unto her, Give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria, for the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Jesus answering said to her, If thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that saith to thee, Give me to drink, thou wouldest have asked him, and he would have given thee living water. And the woman said to him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. I'm going to change the words here and just say, so how come then thou hast living water? Verse 12, Art thou greater than our fathers Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? Jesus answered and said, Whosoever drinketh of this water will thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give thee shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give thee shall be in him a well of water springing up unto everlasting life. Verse 15, the woman said unto him, Sir, give me this water, that I thirst no more, neither come hither to draw water ever again. I'm adding words, of course. Jesus said to her, Go call thy husband, and come hither. The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus answered her, Thou hast well said, I have no husband, for thou hast had 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thine husband. In that saith thou truthfully. The woman said in verse 19, Sir, I think you're a prophet. It's a familiar story, and I want to just focus on one part that I think is critical in this story. The disciples are not there, so I want to talk about the woman as she's there. So let's get a few things very, very, very clear. First of all, she is in Jacob's family, because she says, Our father, Jacob, whose well this is. So we understand that she is in the royalty of Israelite historicity. She's part of the family of Israelite. She's Jacob's great, whatever. At the same time, she's at the well. And a few things you have to understand. First of all, she is not a woman of means. Why? Because she's drawing water. In those days, you had your servants draw water. Your handmaidens draw water. When you're at the well drawing your own water, things are not going well. So there's a dichotomy here. She's in the royalty of Jacob's family because it's their well. But yet, herself, life is not doing well. She's not doing well in life at all. But she's proudly in Jacob's family. And Jesus draws near and says to her, Woman, now that's a unique term too, you know. The word woman is a Greek word called gune. If you look in the Bible, you're going to find something else. That's the exact same word he called his mother, gune, while you're crying at the cross, gune. So the same term he's using for this woman, draw me some water. He's talking to someone. Now, here's where I want to be very, very clear. He's talking to someone who should not be in life at the station she's in, because it's Jacob's well. She's in the family of Jacob. This is a passed down heritage. Yet she is someone whose life has not turned out well. It is not. She's not what she wanted to be. And my sermon today is for someone, and this sermon today is earmarked, because every now and then we somehow, in the family of God, because of behavior on our own part, sometimes take ourselves out the family. Remove ourselves from someone who really is blessed. As things are not going really well, I guess I'm not being blessed. And we take ourselves out the equation because for some reason we think God has this calculator with a big minus on it. And when something goes wrong in our life, when something doesn't develop properly, or we make mistakes or fall down, that somehow we believe that Christ hits the minus button on our life calculator and we become devalued. She's sitting here by the well, not of any real resources, there to draw her own water. And you can tell she's not happy, because you know why she's not happy? Let me give you a little clue. She brings up the difference between Jew and Samaritan. She asked Christ, why would you even she didn't say I wouldn't get you any water. She says, why would you even ask me? Why would you even approach me? I'm Samaritan, you're a Jew. We don't talk to each other. We don't communicate. Like she's arguing the fact that there's a difference. She's arguing the fact that there is a reduction in her status in life. I'm a Samaritan, you're a Jew, and you guys don't have dealings with us. Arguing. So you must admire how Christ handled this. Know how he handled it? He didn't address it. Look what he says. Because she says to him very clearly, she says, I am a woman, verse 9, I am a woman of Samaria, and the Jews, you guys, have no dealing with Samaritans. And he looks at her and says, if you only knew. He wouldn't even address it. Now, I want to take a moment here, because I know the times we live in are really, really tough times. And I'm talking to God's people right now. You got to stop this arguing among society and yourselves about things that are not important. Jesus wouldn't even acknowledge the difference. He says, if you knew. If you knew. There's a whole segment of God's people, and I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about God's people, who measure themselves on this horrible sliding scale. And you always demote yourself because you make mistakes. We all make them. You demote yourself because you feel that God's not caring, or that you're not blessed, or things aren't working out for you, or things aren't going well. And you have a way of demoting yourself to the point where you're looking at God almost saying, I understand why you don't want to bless me. And that's not God whatsoever. It's not him. That's you doing the worst thing you can do. And I always told my wife this many, many a time. I said the worst thing about being judgmental in churches is that at the end of the day, you will end up judging yourself more harshly than anybody else you would have ever judged. She's at the well, and here is the life giver looking at her, and she wants to pick an argument. You're a Jew. I'm a Samaritan. Why would you even want to help me? Because her life has not turned out the way she planned. I can tell you right now, unequivocally, she never in her life had planned to have 5 husbands. She never had planned to have 5 ex-husbands and then have a man say, the one you have now, the guy you with now. That wasn't what her plan was. Nobody really wants to fail. Nobody wants to be on God's bad side. But somehow you feel, or you were taught to feel, but after so many mistakes, God could not possibly love you. And you put yourself in this category of this woman at the well whose life has not turned out well. So she wants to be bitter. And she's bitter. I'm a Samaritan. You're a Jew. Why would you even ask me for water? and Christ doesn't respond. I want to talk to the people this day, just to you guys out there, and maybe not all of you, but maybe just a few of you who have feel that you have disappointed God so often and so frequently that you're really not an apple of his eye. I'm talking to you just today because I want you to know something, because there are a lot of people out right in the world right now, in the church world, that are trying to work their way back into God's good graces, work their way back for a blessing, work their way back toward a miracle, work their way back to a point where they think God hears them. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. You know, I used to work at a little place in Philadelphia called the Harvey House Restaurant. It was on Broad Street, and it was about 2 blocks down from the Academy of Music Philharmonic, where the Eugene Ormandy and the orchestra played, the Philadelphia Orchestra played. And one of my habits was I had made friends with the guy who ran the back door of the opera house. And I would sneak out of my lunch hour down Broad Street Alley, and I'd go to the back door. Now I was working, I couldn't go to a whole symphony concert. But I would get down there because I used to love to hear the orchestra tuning up. You know, different instruments, different sounds. You've heard it before, that big cacophony of choruses that come in, and there's oboes and violins and clarinets and drums and timpanis and horns and French, and everybody is playing on their own level because they're testing their own instruments. They're looking at the range, and this just sounds like musical bedlam. And then in the midst of all that, he walks up to the podium. And with a simple, everything calms down. Because they're now to work as a group, as an orchestra. They're going to come together and lend their own gifts to this magical thing called music. I was recently listening to the University of Miami has a school called the Frost School. And every year, and twice a year, the Frost School puts on an amazing, the Frost School has musicians, they've got choral ensembles, they've got choral orchestras, they've got a mass orchestra, but they every now and then they put on a big concert. And I was listening recently to them doing the Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which is what I really love. And it has great movements in it. The second movement is great, the fourth movement is great. And it's just a great piece of music, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. And the finale is called Ode to Joy. You may have heard that before, Ode to Joy. And it's just a magnificent piece of music. And I listened to, of course, the whole thing. I love the whole thing. But in playing that thing, the orchestra comes together. And as the custom is, the warm-up starts and all that, arranging and playing starts. And then they begin to play this beautiful piece by Beethoven, the Ninth Symphony. And then, as a matter of fact, can I do a little ad here? Those of you who have children, please introduce them to culture like that. A musical piece. Even if you begin with Peter and the Wolf, just make them global citizens, global appreciators of art, to appreciate art and literature. Just do that. It's not sinful. They told you wrong. It's not sinful. It's not wicked. It's not devil's music. It's artists giving their very best offering to this thing that's been written before their time. Take your nieces, nephews, grandchildren. Do that. That's my ad. Anyway, I'm listening to Beethoven's Ninth. I love the second movement, and fourth is even better. But then I love the finale. In the finale, the University of Miami Frost School has an amazing chorus. And the chorus is lined up, maybe over 100 people, behind the orchestra. And the orchestra is in full blast. And then it starts, and it's a magnificent piece. And when you start the music of the finale, you know, Ode to Joy, you've heard before. The choir has part. There are four soloists right there, right in the front of the orchestra. They have parts in the Ode to Joy, and they're singing their parts all in German. And Maestro Schwartz is his name. And I just love him because when you watch him conduct, he knows every single piece of that symphony. He knows every single person who has to do what. And the passion, the pathos he brings to the movement is something to watch. And as he's doing it, he's going along and the music is going. At some point, I'm going to short circuit. At some point, the quartet, they're singing their parts in the lead. The orchestra is playing. The violin section is just working their heads off. You can see in the angst and the passion and the ethos, and everybody is going crazy. And at some point, it's just magical. Then the choir is singing, the woodwinds are playing, the timpani is going like crazy. And you know it's getting near finale time because it's just building. And then in the middle of it building, it's not over yet, but it comes to a halt. And everyone has stopped. The choir has stopped. The soloists have stopped. Musicians have stopped. The woodwinds have stopped. There are no timpanis, no woodwinds, no brass. And in that silent time, all you heard was that was it. It paused in a moment for that part to be played. Now, I will admit, I have been watching the whole concert. That person doing the tambourine in the back by herself, I'd never heard her before the whole concert. I didn't know she was back there. I didn't know she existed. Didn't know where she was the whole time. And I had seen the timpani go on many parts of the concert, and she was sitting right beside the timpani player. I never saw her. I would see the camera go to him, and he's working, and he's hitting, and he's touching, and he's controlling the sound of the drum, but I just never saw her. But at this moment in time, when no one else is playing, there was and it told me something. Through all the concert, through all the movements, through all the fanfare, the conductor, he knew she was there. He knew she was there, and no matter how small her part was, he knew what she could do. And here's the funny part. If you did know her and saw her on stage and you just never saw her playing, your mind would go to, well, why is she even up there? I mean, she doesn't really have a place. She has no value, doesn't really play anything. And after all, I mean, she's just taking up space. But the conductor knew that when the time was right, and when it came to the point where he had a need of her, he knew that she would be there. He knew exactly what she would do, and he knew that his expectation of her part in the symphony, she'd be ready. And it was amazing because at that last moment, that little, it just rang through the whole auditorium. And then she disappeared. Because the woodwinds came back in, the violins came back in, and the timpani kicked up again. And believe it or not, as the finale drew to a close, she was once again in obscurity. You didn't know she was there. Well, you knew she was there, but she had no real big part to play. But for a moment in time, that was the star. I think I came to tell you this morning, those of you who have beat yourself down because you've been self-critical and trying to judge what God thinks or doesn't think of you, I want to tell you, you're wrong. The same way that the maestro knows she's back there, wherever you are, God knows you're there, sees you. He knows that you've been stepped on. He knows that you've been walked over. He knows that you've been mistreated. But he knows when he needs you to come forward, he'll call and you'll respond. I don't care what anybody else says. But that moment in the Ninth Symphony finale of Ode to Joy, when everything is silenced, the maestro knew where she was. The same way that when the disciples leave in John 4, and Christ is by himself and finds a lonely woman whose life has not turned out well, sitting by the well. And he walks to her. He knows exactly what she thinks of herself. She has not lived the life that she had planned to. And when he walks up, Christ would not even let her criticize herself. He wouldn't get any argument. When she says, I'm a Samaritan, it's like Christ almost said, so what? It's like a gospel, I don't care. I don't care where you could, doesn't matter to me. Are you thirsty? Because I heard you beat yourself down. I'm a Samaritan, you're a Jew. And he says, what does he say? If you only knew who I was. If you knew who was talking to you. If you know Jacob and you know history, man, you ought to know about me, the Messiah, the Son of God. I'm here and I'm come to give you water, the kind that you will never, ever, ever thirst again. And nobody is there but him and her. No crowd, no multitude, no masses. But can't you in your mind just kind of hear heaven do? Like it's almost saying to the woman, girl, it's your time. He's come for you. He's come to bless you. I'm talking to someone who has been so self-critical, you wonder if God even loves you sometime because your life is just not turned out well. I want to tell you something. Like the maestro, he knows you're back there. He knows where you're sitting. And he has a part for you to play that you yourself think just isn't that important. You know, if she had told somebody that she's going to be performing that night with the University of Miami Frost School, and we're doing Beethoven, and she says, well, and I'm in the orchestra, you know, they would expect to see her, you know, first chair, you know, or leader of the French horns. They would expect that. They wouldn't expect to see her just be somebody who's just waiting. But the maestro knew that at one point in his concert, he needs her. And he depends upon her. And he wants her because it matters what she hits those 5 notes. I want to tell somebody right now who have been beat down by criticism and self-criticism, judgmentalism on your own part, and others unfortunately do it to you too. I want to tell you something. Christ knows you're back there. He sees you in what you think is obscurity, and he sees you in what you think is just being forgotten. And your part may not be massive. It may not be, you know, everybody wants to be the lead violinist. What an honor to be sitting right there beside the maestro, and he looks at you every single time, and you're his right-hand person. You lead the violins. You're the guy. You're first chair. Everybody wants to be first chair. But for that space of time, you heard nothing but her. I want to convince you right now, whatever you think you are, or whatever you think you have done, you didn't surprise God. He knew that when he called you, and he still called you, and you're still his. And you still are in the line for blessings because you're in the family. You're in Jacob's household. You're in the family. And when she looks at him and says, you don't have a bucket to draw with, all he can say is, transliteration, girl, if you only knew. I want to say to anybody out there right now who is struggling with your place in the family of God, I want to say to you, If you only knew. If you only knew how God's going to use you, even if it's the smallest part in the symphony of God, if it's the smallest place, He wants to use you. And you know why? Because there is a place in His plan that He needs you. And He needs you ready and confident to stand up and be a part of the family of God. Lady, if you only knew who you were talking to and what the gift it is I'm going to give you. Has your life not turned out well? Doesn't matter. Have things not gone the way you planned? Doesn't matter. If one thing I've learned about God that I can really say is an attribute, God has developed a great sense of self-amnesia. He chooses to forget. He chooses to be concerned with where you are right now and where you want to go from here. Self-design amnesia does not care where you've been. Christ says, where do we go from here? That's what God wants to do. Just sit in the chair, even in obscurity, and wait. Because sooner or later, it's your time. Lord, for the gift of your calling us and asking us to be a part of the family of God. And oftentimes, as undeserving as we are, we're thankful. Keep us, and especially those who feel they've gone so far they can't get back. Lord, like the shepherd you are, leaving the 99 safely enfolded and searching out the one. Oh God, come for us and retrieve us and remind us that Calvary was for us. Keep us, protect us, guide us and save us is our prayer in Jesus' name and for His sake. Amen. God bless. God bless.